With Skirk's rerun in 6.4, a lot of players are wondering, is she still worth building around today? She's one of the highest damage cryo carries in the game, but she demands a team built specifically around her. So the real question is, does her damage justify that commitment, or are there easier options in the current meta? Before getting into builds and teams, let's quickly go over how she actually plays. Skirk is primarily an on-field cryo hypercarry who scales off attack. However, unlike most characters in Genshin, she doesn't use energy at all. Instead, she builds a unique resource called Serpent Subtlety, which fuels her playstyle. There are two main ways to play her. Tapping her skill grants Subtlety and puts her into 7-phase flash, where her normal, charged and plunge attacks are infused with cryo. This is essentially her sustained DPS mode and how she'll spend most of her field time. On the other hand, holding a skill also builds Subtlety but doesn't activate her 7-phase flash state. Instead, it's used to safely stack Subtlety before unleashing her burst for a large front-loaded cryo nuke. So at a baseline, she can either stay on field for extended cryo damage or quickswap in for heavy burst damage. In practice, her gameplay loop is quite simple. Build Serpent Subtlety, then enter her 7-phase flash state for sustained damage, or just swap in to use her burst once you've stacked enough Subtlety. What really pushes her damage higher though is how consistently your team generates void rifts. Cryo-related reactions like Frozen, Superconduct, Cryoswirl and Cryocrystallize generate these void rifts. Skirk can then absorb them during her tap stance using her special burst or during the whole version of a skill while moving across the field. More void rifts simply means more Serpent Subtlety, which translates to longer DPS windows or a stronger burst. And this is where team building becomes important. While several cryo reactions can generate void rifts, freeze is by far the most consistent way to do it. Since more reactions mean more void rifts and more void rifts mean more damage, Skirk's highest damage ceilings are achieved in freeze teams where Hydro and Cryo are constantly interacting. Without reliable reaction uptime, she generates fewer void rifts and her overall damage drops noticeably. That's why, despite her raw numbers, Skirk is heavily freeze dependent. With that gameplay loop in mind, let's talk about talent priority. Most of Skirk's damage comes from a skill stance and her burst multiplies. So you'll want to level her elemental skill and burst to maximize the damage she does in either of her playstyles. Her normal attack talent can then be leveled last if you wish to do so. Once her talents are sorted, the next step is choosing the right weapon. Her signature weapon, Azure Light, remains her best in slot option. It provides high base attack, crit scaling and a passive that directly boosts her damage during her different skill states, making it perfect for both a sustain and burst focused playstyles. If you're looking for a strong free-to-play option, Finale of the Deep is your best craftable choice. It provides a Bond of Life mechanic that increases attack once cleared, which does mean you'll need a healer to unlock its full value. Fortunately, most freeze teams already include one, so this isn't usually a problem. Calamity of Eshu is another strong option, but it requires shield uptime to maintain its passive. It performs better in a sustained on-field playstyle rather than in quick-swap burst setups. Primordial Jade Cutter is also a solid 5-star stat stick thanks to its high crit rate, and while Kagutsurube Ishin can work, it's mostly a fallback if you don't have access to better options. With weapons covered, let's move on to artifacts. Her best set is 4-piece Finale of the Deep Galleries. It synergizes perfectly with her no energy playstyle, boosting both her normal attack and burst damage while her energy is at 0, which for Skirk is effectively permanent. If you're pairing her with Furina, 4-piece Marishose Hunter becomes a strong alternative due to consistent HP fluctuations. Otherwise, its value drops significantly. 4-piece Blizzard Strayer is another option as it boosts cryo damage and provides extra crit rate. However, if enemies cannot be frozen, such as certain bosses, its value decreases considerably. For main stats, you'll want an attack percent Sans, a cryo damage bonus goblet, although attack percent can also work when Skirk is ran with Furina and a Scroll of Cinder City user, and lastly a crit rate or crit damage circlet depending on what gives you the most balance. In terms of substats, prioritize crit rate and crit damage first, followed by attack percent. Energy recharge is obviously completely irrelevant for Skirk. As a general benchmark, aim for over 2000 attack, 70 to 80% crit rate, and over 200% crit damage. Once your build looks something like this, the final step is putting her into the right teams. Skirk performs best in freeze teams that can consistently trigger cryo reactions and generate void rifts. In other words, she'll want a team full of cryo and hydro units. Her highest ceiling team is Skirk, Furina, Escoffier and Shenhe. Furina provides massive damage amplification and constant hydro application. Escoffier offers cryo resistant shred and off-heal damage, while Shenhe adds flat cryo damage buffs and additional resistant shred. You can also run her in quick swap teams alongside another cryo or hydro DPS. These teams focus on Skirk swapping in to drop her burst before switching to on-field with a secondary DPS unit. For a more accessible option, you can go with Skirk, Xingqiu, Mona and one of Charlotte or Layla. Charlotte can be used to heal the Bond of Life when using Finale of the Deep, and Layla can provide the shield for Calamity of Eshu. This version maintains strong freeze uptime while providing sustain and additional damage buffs. Finally, let's talk about Constellations and whether they're worth going for. C1 gives you free extra damage when absorbing Void Rifts, a notable personal DPS increase for Skirk. C2 enhances her Serpent Subtlety gain and burst scaling, which improves both her on-field and quick swap playstyles. C3 is a straight burst talent upgrade. C4 boosts her attack based on passive stacks, giving her better sustained damage scaling. C5 raises her skill level by 3. And finally, C6 unlocks her strongest mechanic, Havoc Sever stacks, which add huge potential damage and utility. Her most efficient stopping point is C1, although C0 Skirk is fully functional as long as she's supported properly. So with all of that covered, is Skirk still worth it? If you're willing to build around Freeze and can provide her the support she needs, Skirk still delivers top tier cryo damage. However, if you prefer flexible team options or low investment value, there are easier DPS choices in today's meta. Overall, she's incredibly rewarding when played in the right environment, but she's not necessarily plug and play. If this helped you out, consider dropping a like and subscribing for more Genshin build guides, and let me know whether you'll be going for Skirk on her rerun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.